단다 거주.
단다 거주. 근데 제가 줬어. 단다 줘대요 이렇게 하지.
그래도
나오. 캔슬 나시고.
Your Holiness, colleagues and friends, Namaste, Tashi Delek. I'm Dr. Anupam Sibal, a pediatrician and the Group Medical Director of the Apollo Hospitals Group and the President of the Global Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, GAPIO. To quote His Holiness, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Only the development of compassion and understanding for others can bring us the tranquility and happiness we all seek. With the COVID-19 pandemic, our work days are never ending. The pressure to keep ourselves updated with more than 165 scientific papers a day is intense. And the load of making difficult clinical decisions is hard to carry. The healers today themselves need healing and the wisdom to handle pressure. As we brace up to facing the challenges of COVID-19, we perhaps need more compassion than ever before. The medical community across the globe has united against the SARS-CoV-2 virus, breaking geographical and time zone barriers. HAPI in the US, BAPIO in the UK, CAPI and SINS in Canada, IMJA in Australia, and GAPIO have launched the Global Indian Physician COVID-19 Collaborative. This collaborative has brought together 1.4 million physicians of Indian origin from 49 countries on one platform. We would like to thank Your Holiness for giving us the opportunity to receive your blessings as we draw on all resources to continue our war against COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Good morning, His Holiness. I'm Dr. Akshay Anand.
Oh.
I'm a professor and editor of Integrative Medicine Case Reports published at PGI Chandigarh. On behalf of Yoga Scholars PGIMER and the India Yoga Association Chandigarh, I welcome you to join our efforts to the rolling out of the evidence-based integrative approach in healthcare, so that the mental and the spiritual angle of healthcare providers, to which Dr. Anupam alluded to right now, who are under stress, as well as the patients, are catered to by the mental and the spiritual healing also, as is also brought out by the WHO document for holistic or the One Health program, as well as the Indian ancient text Ayurveda speaking about the patient, the attendant, the disease, and the aushadhi or the drug. We have been carrying out continuous educational series at our Facebook, bringing all the disciplines of molecular biology, yoga, medicine together, and trying to engage people in research efforts. You always mention analyze, analyze, analyze. So we are trying to teach people how to do research, people from yoga and Ayush system, and provide them research designs, models, statistical tools, so that research becomes a movement, and this evidence is used to roll out the integrative health agenda, which is more holistic for both the providers as well as the patients. We also feel, His Holiness, that the compassion may not be complete until compassion in medical practice may not be complete until we are able to integrate this with the other pathies such as Ayurveda, Siddha, yoga, meditation, which we have been continuously educating everybody about the scientific aspects of it and the evidence-based aspects of it. So I'm joined today, His Holiness, by a global expert group from public health, molecular biology, Ayurveda, medicine, neuroscience, psychology, from countries as diverse as New Zealand, Brazil, USA, and other Indian institutions. All these have come together and inspired by Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who's a Nobel laureate, also with us to have a dialogue with you and to learn the value of compassion and, if possible, to generate evidence of what compassion does to our healthcare, and then maybe take ourselves to an intergovernmental agenda to roll out integrative health in all the hospitals that have physicians, which have Ayurveda acharyas, professors of yoga, and people who teach meditation and do meditation. And therefore, we look at this dialogue with you, His Holiness, as a biological link between our lifestyle and our health. And we want to bring in the biologists to come out of their labs and to put out this data to everybody in the public for healthcare. I'm joined today also with my distinguished colleagues, Elisa Apple from the University of California, Dr. Vikram Patel from Harvard, Dr. Satbir Khalsa from Harvard as well, Ziva Khan from Singapore, and Dr. Ranil from Sri Lanka, Dr. Anita Jain from the British Medical Journal. And they're all, and other colleagues in the other screen that you can see, colleagues from All India Institute, New Delhi, NIMHANS, Bangalore, and other, we have Dr. Harpreet, Dr. Bala from Harvard, and all of them have come together to have a dialogue with you in order to come out with a research program which is global, translational, and for the help of all the patients out there. I would like to welcome you to this dialogue on integrative health and your own talk on compassion in medical practice by a shloka in Patanjali Sutra, Yogaschit Vritti Nirodha. It is the mental perturbations which have to be calmed down in order to undertake healthcare, research, or any activity. Welcome, His Holiness.
Thank you. Thank you. 다 그래. 그래. Indeed, I feel great honor, you see, discussing with scholars. So this kind of discussion, I also learn much thing. So one Tibetan as the scholar, I think at least a few centuries ago, he mentioned we till achieve Buddhahood, we are student to learn, always learn, to learn. So I believe that. Now, about health, this body, the body element, and then with that, emotional element or mental element. So our health naturally related with our mind, our emotion, and physical sort of physical level. So mental level, as you mentioned, compassion, altruism, that brings inner peace, inner strength. So that brings peace of mind. So even you see some trouble or some people criticize, so you consider them as our teacher. You must feel gratitude, not sort of counter anger or like that, not that way. So the compassion is best sort of also the countermeasure for anxiety, anger. So that's one part. And then physical yoga, or for example, you see the breathing control. Like that. So that is your sort of heart beating naturally, you see, reduce. And then, simple sort of practice I usually do, like that. When you gain more experience, then you see the breathing take, remain, and out. So they gradually, the period remain longer. So that breathing control, I'm quite sure, you see, those people who a lot of sort of also the anxiety and physical sort of the heart beating, this kind of practice certainly helpful, I feel. Although these ideas come from Indian traditional, also the Dharma text or religious, but these are, we can consider as a academic subject, not something dharmic sort of practice for nirvana or good life next time, like that. Not for that. Simply is how to build healthy body. And that also, you see, helpful to reduce anxiety. So now I have, the last few decades, I have serious discussion with scientists. The scientists mostly from West. So the Western cultural heritage is their background. So they whole life more materialistic sort of also the life, and education itself materialistic education. So to them, the ancient Indian experience, Indian thought, mainly about mind, they really appreciate. The modern scientists till recently, till the later the previous century, the 20th century, there's no idea about mind, about inner world. Now gradually those scientists now develop contact here, I think my own experience, then they gradually, they really appreciate, they realize their sort of education or their thinking, more materialistic way, is something lacking about our inner world. So these days, I usually use the word hygiene of physical, hygiene of emotion. The hygiene of physical, of course, the whole world, you see, pay much attention about physical health. But about hygiene of emotion, something new. The emotion sort of, too much sort of emotion, too much sort of disturb in mental level, that also is very important for healthy body. Too much worry, too much anxiety, and blood pressure
rise,
increase, like that. And then too much anxiety, heart attack, like that. So therefore, the hygiene of physical plus hygiene of emotion must go together. So therefore now, you already sort of mentioned the yoga, these things. Very, very good. Now, I think then field of knowledge, no limitation. With modern scientific sort of equipment, our knowledge can increase infinite way, like that. So, for health reason, for health, as a matter of health, also you see combination, modern scientists, modern science, and ancient knowledge combined. I think very useful. Then, even practical level, now today's world, everybody wants happy life, peaceful world. But actually, many problems are essentially our own creation. We human beings create a lot of problems. Since many problems which we are facing is our own creation, therefore, now we have the responsibility to reduce these problems, since these problems are our own creation. So now, I feel important is education, modern education, which mainly come from West. So in Western world, regarding peace of mind and these things, only you see blessing from God. No, also the tradition, training our mind. In this country, in India, ahimsa with karuna, you see, over 3,000 years already developed the concept of ahimsa and karuna. And these also, you see, through practice of shamatha or practice of vipassana, over 3,000 years in this country. So regarding the mental peace, dealing with emotion, the 1,000-year-old India's tradition, I think very, very useful. According to my own little experience, you see, these 1,000-year-old India's tradition, dealing with emotion, it's very, very useful. So now, I always say, expressing in 20th century, Mahatma Gandhi ji, you see, India's 1,000-year-old ahimsa, non-violence. Now, he practiced that, and in political freedom fight, he implement ahimsa. And then he also show whole world non-violent struggle. So, South Africa and in Europe, in America, many people, you see, very much attracted about Mahatma Gandhi ji's non-violent struggle. One example, Bishop Tutu, totally following Mahatma Gandhi ji's non-violence. Then Kasa, Nelson Mandela, and America, Martin Luther King. So all these, you see, follow or impressed Mahatma Gandhi ji's, you see, non-violent struggle. So now, time come, India's knowledge about how to build inner peace out of karuna. Now that not considered as a practice of religion, but these are kasa academic training how to create mental peace. So sometimes I also have little sort of critical view during freedom fight. Mahatma Gandhi ji should pay some attention about India's education. He simply, you see, accept the Western materialistic education introduced here by Britisher. When the India's education, you see, India, so they get freedom, should pay more attention about education. Now, with modern education, ancient Indian knowledge how to deal with our emotion, that should be part of our education. Like that. So now India, I think, since India, I think many parts of the world, I think really respect India and showing interest about India's culture, these things. So, firstly, in order to show world news, sort of more complete form of education, physical, including physical hygiene and emotional hygiene, these in education, India can do. Like quantum physics, one of my Indian friend, Kasa, Raja Ramana, he told me quantum physics in the West, something new. In this country, 2,500 years ago, already developed the concept of quantum physics. He told me, it is true. So he recite few sentences of ancient Indian great scholar like Nagarjuna. Because Buddhism, Buddha's time, I think his language more Pali language. Then gradually the Buddhist institution, Nalanda, developed. Originally there's some education institution already there, I heard. So then they pay more attention about Buddhist philosophy and used the language, Sanskrit language. So many Nalendra master, they use Sanskrit word, and then you see the Nalendra tradition very much sort of investigation. Buddha himself, you see, express, oh, my follower, monks, nuns, and other should not accept my teaching out of faith, but rather thorough investigation, his teaching. So Nalendra scholars thoroughly investigate about Buddhist philosophy. So number of scholar Nalendra, from Nalendra, you see, they extremely sort of, extremely investigate about Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist teaching. So when we find some contradiction, Buddha's own word with their investigation, then they use the right to reject Buddha's own word. So the Nalendra tradition, I think now Sanskrit tradition, the Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition. The Sanskrit tradition, I think extremely useful. Always use a logical approach, not faith, not belief. So now today, my own experience, last few decades, I have serious discussion, as I mentioned earlier, serious discussion with modern scientists. You see, no problem. Since we emphasize investigation, not just a faith. And correct, too. Tamarida. Choyo marwati.
Shulus.
Ka. Now health, as I already mentioned, the peace of mind should be part of part of health work.
Medical practice.
Physical health. Obviously, particularly the doctors, nurses. You see, I myself, so some experience when visit medical checkup in hospital, the doctors, nurses showing human feeling and smiling, then I feel much comfort. In 1954, I was in China. One Chinese doctor, very good doctor, when I get some problem, so he very serious, but usually he never smiles. Very serious face. So you see, doctor and the nurses, you see, with sort of sign of human sort of also warm feeling, the patients really feel much sort of comfort. Sometimes the doctor with modern equipment, you see, without a smile, then sometimes I may feel, sometimes you see, I feel, oh, there are some investigation or experiment on my body. So, doctor, nurses, more sort of the face, more sort of the compassionate face. Very useful, very useful. Yes, now question.
Thank you, His Holiness, for very inspiring and very good talk, almost pushing us to explore educational research also, whether integration of the traditional and modern medicine can result in more compassionate doctors and professionals. I will speak out we have 3 questions from our organization, Yoga Scholars, another 3 from the Global Physicians. So I will start with the first 3. Before I ask my question, I would allow me to acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Elisa Apple, the professor at University of California, and Dr. Ishwar from Nangal, who is an Ayurveda Acharya and a member of the Arogya Bharati, fighting for prevention of disease in India. The first question, His Holiness, is from our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn. She's a Nobel laureate. She got a Nobel in 2009. She grew up in Australia and got a PhD in Cambridge, UK, and then moved to USA. And now, after that, she worked at University of California, San Francisco. She discovered the telomere and the telomerases. These are the DNA fragments on the chromosomes which determine health and disease. So a lot of research, and after the discovery of telomerase, is trying to investigate whether chronic stress can have any implication on telomerase, which are known to be determinants of lifespan or longevity. And the question is open whether compassion can elongate or change the structure or the activity of telomerases. So she represents the biological community by providing a framework where the public health professionals on one hand, the spiritual people like you on the other hand, can bring out the benefits of biology for the good of patients and the physicians. I welcome Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn to please ask her question.
Thank you. Hello, Your Holiness. My question for you is inspired by a question about my scientific research that you asked me. It was about 14 years ago in Mountain Menla, the Tibet House retreat in New York State. And there several scientists had a meeting on longevity with you and Jinpa and Tibetan doctors. And back then, when I described to you the scientific studies that I had been involved in on the effect of long-term psychological stress on the shortening of telomeres, you asked me a powerful question that I've never forgotten. You asked, what about in people who have given up hope? And so we've now learned a lot about this kind of thing from the scientific research, that people who experience serious depression and the feeling of hopelessness do indeed have shorter telomeres, and that means they have premature body aging. And in fact, it's this type of aging of their immune systems that can make them more vulnerable to viral infections, for example. And today we talked about the many troubles in the world, and this has made many people feel hopeless. And so in turn, I'd like to ask you, what would you advise each of us to do so that we can better help someone who has given up hope?
I think the short-sighted and too much desire and one-sided sorrow, that one-sided sort of attitude, then there is much possibility give up.
Losing hope.
Losing hope. So now here, human mind, human brain have the ability to look everything more holistic. Now, for example, whole galaxies, there was a beginning. this moment now existing. Eventually, whole galaxy disappear. So then, we individual human being, certainly there is a beginning, and then remain, and then eventually disappear. It is nature. Then, within our lifetime, you see, problem is part of our life. But meantime, we have this intelligence. So basically, we have the ability to think, to find ways and means to overcome this problem. So, if we think more wider perspective and more holistic thinking, then you see what's the that useful, you see, hopelessness, or just you see, think narrowly and narrow-minded, then something happen, then you really feel hopeless. But if you have the more wider sort of perspective, more holistic view, then yes, there are some problems, but also you see there is possibility to overcome, like that. So these, you see, human intelligence, human wisdom, through education, as I already mentioned, modern education, the materialistic oriented. Now, Indian tradition about mind, you see, these should combine. Then you will not, you see, easily, you see, lose your hope or confidence, like that. So that I feel.
Thank you. Wonderful.
So my own life, 1959, when things become very difficult, a serious sort of threat, even my own life. So, actually in 1959, March 17th, then I left from Nobulinga, Summer Palace. Doubt whether I can see next sun or next day. Serious adversity situation. But I never sort of give up my hope. There may be some difficulties, but we must try. We must try, and without losing determination. Then, 17th March, 59, then 18th morning, and I feel great relief. Now, at least for the time being, no danger of my life. I reached southern Tibet when I saw new sun, something fresh. So, you see, the serious sort of situation, difficult situation, about threat of my own life, but without losing determination, hope. And I survived. No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, His Holiness, is from Professor Valerie Fagin. He's the editor and professor at the AUT University, Auckland, New Zealand. He's the editor of Neuroepidemiology. Dr. Valerie, can you ask your question, please?
Thank you. Your Holiness, given the growing body of evidence demonstrating direct links between open animal markets, industrial farming, and human health, including COVID and other similar pandemics, what would be your message to the governments?
Basically, if you judge our teeth, the shape of our teeth, and our nail, basically, we human body more equipped with vegetarian, not meat. Look, animal, tigers, laborers, these who always, their life depend on eating meat. Accordingly, their teeth and nail equipped accordingly. Then deer, some other vegetarian animal, or their teeth, their nail, not like tiger. So we judge our physical sort of situation. We more or less belong to the vegetarian animal. But you see, we too much desire, and then eventually, you see, I think in Tibet, like Tibet, in northern Tibet, no vegetable, no fruit. Even the barley also, you see, very rare. Then, such circumstances, the nomad area, there's no other way except, you see, they depend on animal meat, animal milk, like that. But then, basically, we belongs, as I mentioned earlier, vegetarian type. So now India, the vegetarian, there are many, many vegetarian, and Indian food, vegetarian food, excellent. So now we should pay more attention about, you see, non-vegetarian, because vegetarianism. India, millions of people, basically vegetarian. When I first came, the poultry almost not exist. A family, few hens, then chicken. Otherwise, you see, no big sort of
poultry farm. Poultry.
Or poultry. Now, gradually, in the name of development, more and more poultry. So, at least India and those countries who can pay more attention about vegetarian food, then, you see, should not sort of pay more attention, spend more money for making poultry. And similarly, in West, beef farm. It's really terrible. So basically, we belongs to vegetarian sort of physical. So now we make more effort for the development of vegetable and fruit. That also, you see, some sort of also the connection about environment. Beef farm is for ecology's viewpoint also very harmful. So, like a beef farm. Then some difficult thing is fish. People, those sort of concerned people, seems to say no feeling. They also painful experience of fish. I think they consider it just like a vegetable. But in some area, their whole life depend on fishing. There is a story in Tibet, one lake, Yamroto. There's some family, their whole sort of livelihood depend on fishing. So the story says one great practitioner, yogi, he sort of pray, no longer fish. He some kind of communicate with Naga, you know Naga. There's some special sort of what's it, spiritual the being in who control lake water. So he sent a message, should not make more fish. Then gradually number of fish reduce. Then some family whose whole life used to depend on fish, then they facing starvation. So they complain to that yogi. Then he say, oh, fish life, human life more important. So then he allowed, there's no other way for livelihood, only fishing. So you should be exception. So those people, a nomad area and cold climate, there's no other way to live except on animals. That is something different. But now today, we can develop more vegetable, more fruit, more sort of the vegetarian food. So, and reduce farming because of beef farming. Ecologically, also you see, good. Beef farm, very bad. And then, in order to develop vegetarianism, instead of beef farm, big beef farm, we should develop a vegetable garden, I feel. So I myself, of course, when I first reached India as Tibetan, usually Kasadi, a non-vegetarian. After I reached India, 64, I give up. I determined now I should be vegetarian, no longer eating meat. So at that time, one occasion, I visit Japan with my elder brother. When we lunch together, or food together, he always teasing me. He enjoy meat. I'm vegetarian at that time. So he always teasing me like that. So next, about 20 months, I remain vegetarian. Then I developed the problem, jaundice. And whole body become yellow. So later, I sort of express with jokes. At that time, I become truly living Buddha. Whole body become yellow. Not through